You already know they weren't good for you. You've replayed the evidence, the canceled plans, the way they made you feel smaller than you were, the apology that never quite arrived, the version of you that existed around them, always slightly on edge, always waiting for something that didn't come. And yet, there are still moments when you miss them. Not the arguments, not the bad parts. You miss the voice, the specific way they laughed, a restaurant you used to go to together, the feeling of being known by someone, even if that someone also knew how to hurt you. And you can't explain it, because logically, it makes no sense. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your brain doesn't care about logic. It was never built for it. It was built for survival. And the survival system running underneath your conscious mind follows rules that were written long before fairness or self-respect existed as concepts. Here's what's actually happening. When you form a close relationship, any relationship, your brain's reward system releases dopamine. Not constantly, intermittently. And that's the critical word. Intermittent reward is the most powerful reinforcement mechanism the brain has ever developed. Slot machines run on intermittent reward. Social media runs on it. And so did your relationship.
When things were good, they were very good. And when things were painful, the good moments didn't disappear, they became rarer and therefore more valuable. Your brain wasn't registering the average of your experiences. It was registering the peaks. And the peaks, however infrequent, got wired in. This is why you don't miss them evenly. You miss the specific things, the moments, the version of them that existed at their best. Your brain stored those moments with high emotional priority, and it kept returning to them the way your tongue finds a sore tooth. Not because it's pleasant, but because something important is marked there. There's a second system running alongside that. Attachment theory, developed by the psychiatrist John Bowlby in the 1960s, established that humans form deep neurological bonds with people who become associated with safety and comfort. The bond doesn't require the relationship to be objectively safe. It requires the feeling to have existed at some point. And once that bond forms, the brain treats its absence as a threat. Separation activates the same neural circuits as physical pain.
You're not being irrational. You're experiencing withdrawal from a neurological attachment.
The pain is real because the bond was real, regardless of whether the relationship was good. But here's where it gets more complicated. A psychologist named Martin Seligman studied something called learned helplessness in the 1960s. Animals placed in environments where they couldn't predict or control outcomes didn't just become passive. They became attached to those environments in specific ways. Unpredictability, it turned out, didn't produce avoidance. It produced hypervigilance, an obsessive attention to the source of uncertainty. An inconsistent relationship trains the same response. When someone is sometimes warm and sometimes cold, sometimes present and sometimes absent, without a pattern you can decode, your brain doesn't conclude, this is not safe, I should leave. It concludes, I haven't solved this yet. It increases attention. It increases emotional investment. It keeps you oriented toward the problem because the problem is still open. Missing them is, in part, your brain still trying to solve the equation. And underneath all of that is something even older. Humans are profoundly social animals. Isolation was historically dangerous, not uncomfortable, dangerous. The brain learned to treat the loss of a close bond as an emergency signal. Not because the bond was good, because the bond existed. Because the social wiring doesn't evaluate quality. It tracks presence and absence triggers the alarm. This is why grief doesn't require a good relationship. People mourn abusive parents. People feel the loss of friendships that damage them. The emotional system doesn't run a cost-benefit analysis before it decides how much a person mattered. They mattered because they were there. So, what does any of this do for you? Understanding the mechanism doesn't switch it off. You can know everything in this video and still feel the pull. That's not weakness. That's the system working exactly as it was designed. The brain that helped your ancestors survive doesn't have an off switch for relationships that were complicated. What it does is this. It changes what you're listening to. The feeling of missing someone is not the same as evidence that you should return. It's not confirmation that the relationship was good. It's evidence that your brain formed a bond, ran an attachment loop, and is now processing its absence the way it was built to. The ache is real. What it's telling you about them is not. You're not missing them. You're missing the version of them your brain decided to remember. And your brain, it turns out, is a very selective editor.